they give us, a great, support to our already, strong team. But, I'm going to just start off alphabetically and go through some of these guys. I really feel strongly about the Armstrong twins, the year that they had, coming from a great program in St. Ed's. Obviously what they did as a team this year, and they led the way. Guys have been tremendous in terms of their, development throughout their high school career, and you're seeing them play their best football. And we're very excited about them. Mylan Graham, we recognized him early on in the process. Brian did a great job of building that relationship up. We think he gives us a lot, and it has a really bright future ahead of him. Max LeBlanc is, at the Baylor School. His family is from Canada and Montreal. Really talented young man. Came down from Canada, and had to make the transition to a school where he was on his own, but really did a great job when he was there. His film is tremendous. We think he brings a lot of versatility to the team. Miles Lockhart is a corner that I actually saw play live. He's going to be a nickel for us as well. Miles is extremely competitive. He fits what Jim wants right there in that nickel position. He can also move out to corner, but really nasty, tough player who has jumped in and been a great part of this class. Jalen McLean, safety from Seton Hall Prep, another guy that had a great year. His team had a great season. In a position of need. He's a guy who's very productive in his high school career. Certainly had a great senior year. Eric Mentz is a guy that came to camp, worked with Larry. Comes from a great family, Mountain View High School in Virginia. Was really a strong player. Had a good year. He's played multiple positions in his, in his high school career, and brings a lot of versatility there. Ian Moore, is a guy who, again, jumped in early. I think he was one of the first guys to commit in this class. He's been great. Again, had a really good high school career. Brings, again, some versatility. He can move some different places inside, and Ian's going to be a really good player for us. Aaron Nolan is somebody who is special in a lot of different ways. The way that he conducts himself, the way he handles himself, and he has, very high end. He's very athletic. And he's going to be the leader of this team. James Peoples is a dynamic running back who, again, has had a great high school career. He can do multiple things. He's strong. He's going to be a dynamic player, and I think going to make an impact early on his freshman year. Peyton Pierce out of Lovejoy in Texas. This is a guy who, he wrestled. He's, done so much for his team. He'll play quarterback. He's very versatile and has done a lot of things. He comes from an unbelievable program and great family. He brings a toughness, hard hat mentality, and, we're very excited about him. Leroy Roker from Bishop Rowe down in Fort Myers is someone that we got on late, had a really good senior year. And that's, we've had some, good luck with guys who we've evaluated late. I evaluated them their senior year. Again, guy who's very productive down there and a huge addition to the back end. Aaron Scott was a huge addition for us. Aaron, Tim Walton did a great job recruiting Aaron. He had a great season this year. He played quarterback when he needed to. They started off, kind of rocky this year, and then brought their team all the way to the state finals. Big time player out of the state of Ohio. That's going to be a big part of our future. And Garrett Stover is, out of Big Walnut here, cousins of Cade Stover, brings the same type of mentality that with Cade. He'll play linebacker for us or safety, has some versatility there. But again, really, really talented player that is going to be a big part of our class. Gabe Van Sickles, another one that, we looked at late. Justin evaluated him. We see a really athletic guard who could possibly move into center, but very athletic and has a huge upside. Bryce West is out of Glenville. Bryce, we offered early on in the process. Coach Ginn was a big part of the process, and he's one of the best corners in America. A huge addition to the back end. Sam's William Dixon is a local guy who has some versatility. He was listed as an athlete at one point, but now we're going to start him at running back. He's been at a bunch of our practices recently, coming by and watching. Brings, again, versatility. He can move around, do some different things with him. And then Demarion Witten is listed as a tight end, but he can do a lot of things. He played wide receiver recently in the U.S. Army game down in Texas and had 3 touchdowns, was the MVP. Really dynamic, out on the perimeter. So those are the guys right now that we have signed. We're still waiting on a few other guys to kind of see how that goes. That may go on, later into the day or into the night. But those are the 18 guys, and our guys and staff did a great job with these 18.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to open up questioning. Far left, Brendan Gooley, Buckeyes now on F5.
Coach, I want to ask you specifically about Demarion and his skill set. I know you like his versatility and his speed. What is it about that kind of player who lines up in so many different places for a team that needed him to do different things that allows you to project what you think you can get out of him when he comes here?
Yeah, it started early on when Coach Ginn had him as a young player and told me this kid is special, and he said, he can be the best receiver in the country. And when he said that, you kind of take a step back, but you're seeing exactly what he's talking about. You watch him on the basketball court, and he's going to have to grow into play tight end if that's where he ends up, getting down in there. But you can do multiple things with Demarion, and like you said, it can be a matchup issue. But his length and his size and his ability to play the ball is tremendous. So. Again, Ted did a great job identifying him early on. We jumped on him early on, and you can see his ceiling is extremely high.
Deontay and Devontae, obviously the tape kind of stands for itself, but off the field, what impresses you about those 2 guys?
It's the overall makeup. They have great work ethic. They played basketball when they were younger, and then they really just focused on football the last couple of years, and you can see the improvement, year in and year out, and then almost week in and week out, and they're becoming really good offensive linemen and football players. And sometimes you don't grow up playing the position. You have to grow into the position a little bit, and you're seeing that. And they're both bigger guys. They're long body types, and you just see them get more and more comfortable playing the position, understanding the technique and how to bend and get low. And they come from a great program, and they're well coached. So. All the above.
Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Brian, in your estimation, is the recruiting on the offensive line and defensive line substandard for Ohio State standards? Why or why not?
No, I mean, we try to, identify the guys that we think are the right fit for us, and we go get them. I'm really excited about the guys that we have. We think that, they really fit well with what we're doing on offense. And you have them in camp, you see them in camp, you see what they're going to do, and you project into what they're going to be. And then, ultimately you have to fit, the needs that you have. So, we always want to be the best in the country, and I think we have a great group coming in.
And switching gears, do you expect to make any changes to your coaching staff after the season?
Like I said to you before, we got this bowl game to play, and we're always going to evaluate it. And, if there's any updates, then, I'll give them at the right time. But we're always going to evaluate it after every season and go from there.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, with Air, obviously you guys had a quarterback at one point in this class and maybe was the foundation of this class. And then about a year ago, you had to maybe pivot a little bit. Can you just take us through the timeline of identifying Air about April and why you guys zeroed in that relationship?
Yeah, we watched his film and saw the athleticism and just kind of a baller out there, making a lot of plays, state champ. He was high school teammates with Jelani Thurman. So we were down there some, got to see who he was and saw all the people in the area and the school and the coaches talk about what a great player he was, what a great leader he is. And it doesn't take long. When you talk to him, you recognize how mature he is and his approach. And that's a big part of it. So, we just love that part of it. We feel like he's got a really high ceiling, when he gets here, and looking forward to get to work with him soon.
You guys, you've gone through this a couple of times where you get a quarterback and then some things happen and you end up having to do it again. What's that process like when you lose the guy? Are you reevaluating guys you looked at before? Are you looking at new options? How does that work?
Yeah, I just think that, the way things are now with recruiting, there's just a lot of twists and turns along the way. I just think about when, even 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, somebody would commit, and the timing was their own, but then that was kind of it. You moved on. Now there's twists and turns along the way for a lot of different reasons. And so, you just have to work through those and figure out, who's the right guys for you at the time. and then fill your 85, and that's what it is. But there's a lot of twists and turns along the way, and now you have you have the high school class, then you have the portal, and you have different parts to make sure your roster's right.
Obviously, he's walking into a room where there's not a quarterback competition that maybe nobody was expecting at this point. But with true freshmen who are expected to early enroll, and I know you've been through this before, but kind of back in 2021, but what has to happen for a guy to be, as a true freshman in your experience, to actually be ready to contribute in year one in a way where you can look at him and go, okay, maybe he can be our starting quarterback?
Yeah, you don't know till they get in and just start to how quickly can they learn the offense and get used to it and learn from their mistakes. You can't replace experience, but some guys just you just see it early on. They can handle the information, they can handle what it takes, and most guys it takes a little time to get that figured out. A lot of guys want to come in and play right away because it sounds good and they're anxious, but that always isn't the best in terms of their development. But each guy is unique, and we get a better idea once we get going with spring practice. Yeah, we've had a lefty before.
Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, just wanted to ask about the trio at cornerback. It feels like a position that ended up really strong for this class. So can you go through those guys in a little more detail? I know you touched on them before, but just what you feel you got in that?
Yeah, well, I think Tim has done a great job identifying talent early on and then building relationships and going from there. I think you're seeing the way that our corners are playing. You're seeing Denzel, IGB, Jordan Hancock starting to play at a high level, and I think that's a big part of the recruiting process, seeing it on the field in Jim's defense. And so, we've identified these guys early on and recruited the heck out of them. Aaron Scott was somebody who came to camp early on, and it was a hot day out there, and he grinded. I mean, he went for, I think an hour, and just, everything we threw at him as a young player. He had a broken wrist. He kept working, and we could tell there was a toughness there. There was just a grit there. He wanted to earn that scholarship, and he did that day. And then, he's built himself up to a really, really good football player. Bryce West, same type of thing. Again, Coach Ginn early on believed in this young man, and said this guy's going to be a great player. And so we recruited him, but then offered him pretty early in the process. And then you could just see the way he played that next year. He was much more aggressive. He was tackling, making plays, and he just continued to become a better football player. And you know what you're getting when you get somebody out of Glenville. Really?
Yeah, if you want to take us through your emotion you got to address the floor is yours. You got to address that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everything's in yet, Jerry. You got to. Yeah. Before I do something and get myself in trouble.
You're still flipping right now, though? What's going on?
It's been flipping for a while.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. What was the question?
Talking about cornerbacks.
Yeah, right. Right. So, Bryce, and I go back to Glenville, and I got to give Coach Ginn so much credit for the way he develops young men there, and they understand what it means to be a Buckeye. They do. And that matters. Arvell Reese has come in and worked his tail off. I'm really excited about these guys, and Bryce West's going to be the next one. Look at it. Look at what he's done on the track and field. The times that he's put down, and just what a great player. And then Miles. Yeah, like I said to you before, I actually had a chance to watch Miles. I was at the semifinal game in Arizona. And I just watched the guy just play his tail off. I mean, he was all over the field, and I just was like, man, who is that? And then you can just see him start to come on as a player, and so again, I think really when you talk about needs, you're talking about two lockdown corners and a really feisty nickel in there.
And then you asked a little bit about the O-line, D-line, but I wanted to drill down specifically on the D-line. Another decision coming up here in a little bit. And obviously reports out there, whatever. But are you satisfied with the depth of the defensive line class that you have?
Well, we have to, have the way that we do it. We do have 8 defensive tackles, 8 defensive ends. And that's when it all is said and done, we have to make sure that we have the right guys, and we have a lot to consider, guys coming back. We have the portal, we have, guys that are growing in that position. And then we have the high school recruiting. So, we have a certain number that we got to hit. I think right now we're right around, 83, 84. I think we're right in there. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility moving forward. But, yet to be seen. Yeah.
Matt Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Right. When we were talking to Jack last week, he was talking about the Michigan game, like a lot of guys were, but he talked about growing up.
Yeah.
Not everybody you recruit does that. You just mentioned the guys from Ohio. I don't know who you have from Ohio, but just how important, given kind of the last 3 years, is it to have more guys in the program that feel that walking in the door, maybe before learning it?
Well, it's something we talk about in recruiting all the time, but I think you're right. I think the guys from Ohio, and I've always felt this way, have to lead the way on that. When in the locker room, certainly the coaches lead the way. We all lead the way. It's all our job to make sure. But when we're in the locker room, and guys are in their apartments and guys are in the workouts, it just, like you said, it's their job to make sure that message is really hammered out across the team. And we talk about that in recruiting, talk about that during our home visits, and that is important.
You mentioned, I think it was James Peoples, you said, is a guy who could come in and potentially play running back. Your depth has been depleted a little bit there with some guys leaving, and I know Trey still has a decision to make. How do you feel like both of those guys could contribute, maybe quickly if needed?
Yeah, well, may need them to, depending on Trey, and right now we're at 4, and we like to be at 4 or 5. But the plan all along has been for those guys to come in and play as freshmen. So, wanted to get them at mid-year to get them in here and get going, and we know that we've done that before, with some freshmen. So excited to see them get on the field, and we'll know pretty quickly.
Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Aaron Scott was a guy that future in kind of Big Ten schools wanted. When you win these recruiting battles, these significant players, what is that like? How important is it for this program?
Yeah, it's very important. You have to win those battles. And like Tim was a big part of it. We all were. But Aaron and his family were awesome. They were great in the process. They're huge supporters of Aaron. Coach Mo there. I mean, the whole coaching staff was great. They have a great program. And, guys know when you're from the state of Ohio, the best players, play at Ohio State. And they know what it means, to be a Buckeye in the state of Ohio, and the opportunities, and what it can mean for them for the rest of their life. And I think Aaron understood that.
Theme that you see within this class, anything that connects some of these guys?
A theme? They all want to be great. They all want the big stage. I think when you come to Ohio State, you have to think big. You have to think big, because there's nothing you can't get done at Ohio State. You have to want the big stage. You have to want, all of it. When you walk into the shoe, you're going to play, the biggest stage in the country, with the most watched team across America. I think 70 million viewers last year watched us play. You have to want to be great. You have to want to be elite. You have to want to walk in a room where you're going to have a bunch of great players that are going to compete every day. You've got to be competitive. And that's probably the thing you notice the most.
Tom Moore, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, you said earlier you're going to sort of evaluate the staff after the season. What are the specific factors that you are evaluating, and what's the standard that they're being evaluated against?
Yeah, we the first thing is, recruiting. That's the number one thing. You got to recruit your position. It's your job. You're the head coach of your position. You got to make sure that, that room is strong, year in and year out. We have a certain amount of depth that we have at each position. And then, it's your job to make sure that you have, that best room in the country. I think that's the other thing that we talk about a lot. And when you're at Ohio State and you're coaching, the wide receivers, it should be wide receiver you. If you're coaching the linebackers, it should be linebacker you, because this is the best place in the country. And so I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is how they perform on the field. What type of production are you getting out of your unit? And a big part of that is the development. When if you're recruiting really well, and then you're developing your players, then usually you're going to get production. And then the last thing is just, what are you bringing schematically to the table? Are you putting your guys in a situation to be successful? and that's our job as coaches.
Right next door, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Right, it's been a couple of years now in this new era, and the last 2 years we've talked on this day about the need for guardrails in college football that haven't happened yet. How much harder is this job than it was 2 years ago? Listening to Chip Kelly, obviously one of your mentors the other day, he had a lot of things to say about what he thinks college football needs to adopt or trend towards. Do you have thoughts on that? And, how do they vary? I mean, where do you see this going for the game?
I mean, I think it's a long conversation. I think there's a lot of different ways that we can look at it. I think, the biggest thing is, you just have to adapt to the landscape that's going on. Yeah, I do think that, like you said, there's just been so many changes, and college football adapts very, very quickly. I mean, the way it was a year ago is not the same. The way it was 3 weeks ago is not the same. It is constantly changing. And so, we just have to adapt at a high level. But, we certainly all need to sit down and figure out, how we can, move forward in a direction that, like you said, has, guardrails and, what that all means. I think that's a challenge in college football because, if you put a bunch of coaches and ADs in a room together, they all come from different areas of the country. Their schools are very, very different. So I think, that part of it is a major challenge, but the number one thing right now is for us to adapt and move forward.
As this cycle comes to an end and you start looking ahead to the next one, can you look ahead and see what the next speed bumps are? Or is there?
Yes.
I mean, what do you think those are?
I just think right now it's roster management across the board and all the things that come with that. In making sure that, you have a team, not a bunch of individuals, but also making sure that, you're advocating for your players and they are getting what's fair. I think that's the big balance right now, and making sure that you're building something that's sustainable. I think that's all really important.
He's not. We're still waiting for Justin Kubiak. Cameron T. Robinson, yeah, left.
Brian, you mentioned the high school class and then the transfer portal class. When you go into a sign day and maybe there's some last second flips or regardless of the position, does that impact how aggressive you might be in the portal?
Yes. Yep.
At what point do those conversations change? Like, at what point are those conversations, okay, this person's leaving, we need to get this right away? Is it a couple days later? How does that process work?
I think you always have contingency plans in place for if something were to change. So you always have your board and your list, and Mark does a great job of being organized in terms of now, just like in the NFL, you have your draft board, and then you have, the free agency, and you have the pro scouting, just like they do there. Well, we have the transfer portal, and then we also have, high school recruiting, and then making sure you fit, all the pieces the right way. Again, the goal is to have the right 85 when we kick off in the preseason, and it's a long way. We got to go through another, phase in May where transfer portal opens back up. There's a lot that goes with that. So, we wanted to make sure we did a great job finishing up, and solidifying, this group right here. And then, it's on to the next phase. We continue to build towards August.
As the transfer portal continues to grow and be more important to college football, how do you prioritize high school class transfer portal?
Well, we always want to develop players. We want to bring in high school players and develop them. I think that's how you sustain a program, and that's how you have stability along the way. But as we know, that isn't just the way it's going to be. The guys are going to look for different opportunities, and then, you need to bring guys in. So, we'll continue to do that and make sure that we have the right mix.
Play all WSYX.
Ryan, you guys are leaving for Dallas, I guess, this weekend. Is Marvin in, JT, Trey? Do you know what you're dealing with?
Yeah. I think I've allowed those guys to kind of do their own thing. I don't want to, kind of put their stuff out there, but we got a good group playing in the game. Yeah, we do. And, we're going down there to win the game, and we've had a good, few weeks of practice. And, again, the Cotton Bowl is a great bowl. We have a really good opponent. So, this is a great opportunity, like I said before, for Devin to go in and be the starter. And, we want to finish the season the right way.
Practice
Who's they? Our team?
Marvin.
Oh yeah, yeah. Guys have been at practice and yep. Oh yeah, yeah. They've all been out there and so no, we're gonna have a good group going down there.
One other thing, I've had a number of questions about Larry Johnson. Have you had to answer questions whether he's retiring or staying?
It's funny. Guys have brought that up over the years in recruiting, but he's young. He's in terms of his approach every day, he's got a lot of energy. And he wants to continue to coach. And the guys in the room love him. And so yeah, no, he's still got a lot of energy when it comes to coaching, and he still has a passion for coaching. And his wisdom, his experience is the best in the country, and our guys know that, and they certainly people recognize that in recruiting.
Think he's back?
Yes.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, do you believe in you've built the program now for the last 5 years? Do you believe in program momentum? Just as a term or an idea.
I mean, I think you have different waves along the way, and you can as you're winning games and things are going to the season, you can feel that, and certainly when you lose a game, certainly around here, it can take a toll on you. You got to regroup and move forward. But, one thing we're not going to do is panic and overreact. I think that's easy to do in today's day and age with, social media and things that can come into play where, people can feel like, we need to overreact and panic. We're not going to do that. But at the same time, when things need to be changed and things need to be addressed, you got to address them. And that's the bottom line.
Since Thanksgiving weekend, not on the field, but also closing out this 2024 recruiting class, a lot of noise from the outside about just like what has happened and does this program have a positive momentum. How do you, on a day like today, celebrate the wins that you've had in this recruiting class while also you said that you want to recruit at the highest level in the country, but when you lose guys who you thought were going to be in the boat, how do you celebrate the wins, but also understand that you might not have closed where you might have wanted to close in some areas?
Yeah, you just focus on the guys you have, and I think it's important. You don't focus on the guys you didn't get. You focus on the guys that you have, because that's what really matters. Because ultimately, it's going to be the guys who are in that locker room and the guys who are going to be on the field. And so we know that there's a lot of twists and turns along the way. And ultimately, what matters is the team that we have in August, and we got some really good guys here. They're going to be really good football players.
Going back to recruiting, how exciting is it to add a guy like Garrett Stover, considering Cade's cousin? You mentioned he brings in that same kind of hardworking mentality, and then also, can you elaborate on what Sam Williams-Dixon brings in with his versatility at running back?
Yep. Again, both Ohio guys that we talked about before are going to be important, for that locker room to. They understand what it means to be Buckeyes and growing up in the area. Certainly Garrett just being, part of the family anyway, watching Cade and all that. But, and then Sam, with his versatility growing up, just outside of Columbus, but both are really good players. And, they're going to bring that mentality when they come to work every day, a toughness, and so they got to lead the way. Guys who are, closest to Columbus got to lead the way. And those are two guys that will.
Ryan, with defensive line recruiting, I guess generally, do you feel like you guys cast a wide enough net when trying to find the right prospects? And additionally to that, this program has always done a pretty good job with offensive linemen of kind of scouring the Midwest and finding, developmental prospects. Obviously, you've done that with this class. It just doesn't seem to happen as much on the defensive line, and I'm wondering maybe why that is.
I think when you say, cast a big enough net, I think so. I mean, we recruit from coast to coast, when you look at our roster just across the board and, where our guys are from. And, I think we're looking from coast to coast. You look at, I guess, in our D-line now, you got a guy from Germany, you got a guy from Seattle, you got guys from different parts of the country. So I think, we're looking for the best we can possibly get and the best fit. And so, yeah, I mean, Jack Sawyer's from right down the street. We've got guys from Ohio, and I think everyone wants to come in and develop, at a high level. But I think we've done a really good job, like you said, in the O-line of identifying those guys and having physical guys that are going to come in and work and and want to be at Ohio State and become veteran players. So I mean, two different positions, but I feel like we are casting that net, yeah, and also developing.
When it comes to Larry, it just seems like, again, and I'm sure in the future going to keep weaponizing it against you. The fact that he is, I believe, 72 years old and has been doing this a long time. What is the plan, I guess, to combat that? To stop other programs from using that against you as you move forward?
Well, I think the other part of it, the flip side is that this is a guy who's developed unbelievable players, and some people can talk about how they develop and everything. Like Larry's actually done it, and so there's a body of work there, and and also he's got a lot of wisdom to him, and so when you're going into a room every day with somebody, you're counting on them to mentor your young man. And I think that's where, families feel comfortable with that. When they hand their son over to Larry Johnson, they know what they're getting. They're going to get someone that's going to pour into them in all areas. And, he's done that with so many different people. And so, he's going to continue to work. He's got, again, a ton of energy, and, he's working hard. Recruiting is just like everybody else. There's certainly different challenges these days, as you know, but he is adapting, and we're going to have a really good D-line next year.
I have one signee on the defensive line right now. I think if you guys get good news, I know she'll have two. It just doesn't feel like, I know you're waiting on some guys that were currently on the roster to make some decisions, and that complicates things. But I guess generally with this class and the last couple of classes, do you feel like you've hit the number and quality of defensive line that you need to?
Yeah, I do. And I hear what you're saying. I think, when you look at the guys that we have right now in our numbers, it's 8 and 8, and then we'll look at what these guys are going to do. We have some guys who are really talented who are playing as sophomores and juniors, and if they decide to come back, that's they take up a lot of the then you also have Kenyatta, and you have Caden, and you have Mitchell, and these guys are all really good players that are going to play next year as well. So for a young player who wants to come in and develop and work through and work into the lineup, it's a great opportunity. But ultimately, it's going to come down to what's on the field. And, if we have to look in the portal, if there's a hole, we'll do that as well. But no, I feel like, right now that room is a good room, and, it's a little bit, going to be year to year in some different spots because of the way that, things shake out in the portal and recruiting right now. So I feel good about that room, but we'll keep looking at it and make sure that we got the right group in August.
Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
We haven't talked to you since Kyle's decision became public. Just anything that you could say as to ways that you think you could have handled that better, or how surprised were you at the way that sort of went sideways?
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep the conversation private between us, but and I really don't want to get into it because I don't think it serves anybody any good. I think Kyle was very well respected here. We wish him nothing but the best. He played some good football here, and spent 3 years here and made a lot of relationships here, and I think he's committed to another school now, and he'll do well there. He will. So I don't think it's worth getting into all right now, but certainly wish him nothing but the best of luck. There's a lot of guys in that room that care about him a lot.
That decision then led to a lot of speculation as to how much you guys would get involved in the transfer portal with the quarterback. How did you look at that, approach that, and ultimately what, I guess, decisions have you made about that?
Yeah. I think that, competition is very, very healthy. I think, Lincoln's really been coming on. Excited to see Air, get going here this spring. But, fired up to see the way Devin's been practicing the last few weeks. It's been great for him. Now that he's healthy, his ankle's feeling better, and kind of like, okay, take this thing and run and see how the next couple of weeks go in terms of the way he handles himself. Excited that he's going to be able to play in this game, and then just go from there. But Devin was real close, going into the season. And so this is going to be an awesome opportunity for him to take it and run. And so excited to see that. And again, I think the guys have seen, what he's been, the last couple practices have been very good. But also, Lincoln and Air, I mean, these guys are talented young men who want to get on the field.
Specifically, what are you seeing from Devin right now that you like, maybe especially relative to what you were seeing when you made the decision to come?
Well, you're seeing, you wait to get into the game to kind of see it all. But I think it's just the experience of getting more and more reps under your belt. But also, when you're with the ones and you're with the starters all the time, I think you can play a little bit, maybe a little bit more freely and not worried about making a mistake. And so that's been good to see.
Okay, Mark, we pause for. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay, pause. You guys want me to answer some questions? Yeah, actually.
We don't speak upon Jerry.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna continue. Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, the academic calendar here kind of derails a lot of what you can get done in terms of the portal and everything else. I know class is starting in January. Do you expect one or two portal people to be with you when class starts in January, or is that still a possibility?
Oh, it's definitely a possibility. Yeah. We're looking at it hard, and we're recruiting guys, and we have a visit window there in January right before classes start. So, we wanted to do a great job finishing today, but we've been once the portal opened, we've identified them, and a big part of it is making sure we have the right fit, and part of the process is you don't have a time to get to know who these guys are. So sometimes you bring them on visits and you learn about who they are, you make sure it's the right fit, and then you go from there. So we're going to be all over it.
Back, you lose Evan, you lose Chip. From where we sit, we don't know where Trey stands. Seems like Dallin would come back, and you're adding two guys here. Just what do you do about that situation? How are you working to manage it, I guess? Is portal part of that?
Yes. I mean, it could be, based on how things shake out here. But, again, let, Trey, he's going to, got a decision to make for sure. But we'll go from there and, kind of see how that goes. And that'll obviously have an effect on how that room looks next year.
Dan Polk, 11 Warriors.
Just to follow up on transfers, I mean, obviously there's been some schools that have added a lot of guys. You guys haven't added anyone yet. Do you feel like you guys are behind it all in that process?
No. We have a handful of guys that have to make some decisions here, and that plays into all this because, as you know, things, things affect other things. And so now, if there's somebody there that we think fits right now, we'll jump on it. We've had some guys that have already visited, and but we have to make sure that not only can they help on the field, but also they're the right fit for a lot of different reasons. And so, we have an opportunity to have a really good group come back next year. I mean, and so, that all plays into this, but, we're all over it. We've had some guys visit, and we're going to keep pushing towards it. Cause again, there's just, in the past you had your recruiting class, you added those guys in it used to be February. Now it's December. And then, that was pretty much your team. Now there's just so many more variables at play. So, we're just going to keep taking it 1 week at a time. And ultimately, we want to have the best roster in the country in August.
How do you strike that balance between, recruiting guys in the portal while you still don't know what some of the other decisions are going to be?
Yeah, it's all new. It's one of those things you try to do everything you can to have the best roster, but also, you have a team you want to manage and make sure that, you're making it competitive across the board. But yeah, that's part of, this run right here from, the beginning of December all the way to, really through January is interesting. There's a lot of dynamics at play. And so you just take it one day at a time and do the best you can. But, it's a different balance than certainly has been the case in the past.
Are you going into the Cotton Bowl with Devin as the guy at quarterback, or could Lincoln get some snaps in there too?
The plan is still play Devin. And if the situation comes up to get Lincoln in the game, we would do that. But this is going to be Devin's game to play.
All right, Matt Parker, left row.
Brian, just by chance, was that phone call from you for Georgia?
I can't comment on that.
Okay. Well,
worth a shot, right?
Yeah. Until then, as it relates to finding guys late in the cycle, guys like Gabe Van Sickle and Leroy and things like that, what goes into scouting guys into their senior year? And you have to look at guys with a different lens when it's super late in the cycle.
Yeah. And, you have to identify how they fit into the whole room, and whether it's a position or those type of things. And, we just see somebody who's a really good athlete, somebody who, when you watch the film, he's not playing, in terms of, he's not playing down in Texas or playing at, some of the bigger schools, but when you see him out there, you recognize him, he sticks out. He plays at a high level, and I think that he's going to transition really well into college football.
All right, folks, we've got about 5 more guys that I need to get to for questions, but I also have a commitment for Coach at 1:15 with the Big Ten Network. So I'm gonna pause this, Coach, if you don't mind, if we're gonna go in and knock that out so we can get that
Okay.
done. We'll be back here in about 10 to 12
Okay,
minutes.
you got it. All right.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I feel like this press conference is like signing day. You guys are getting a feel for how hectic and crazy it can get. So appreciate your guys' patience. Right, I know. We'll take 3 here. Let's finish this thing up.
Ryan, in this era, how has it become harder to hold on to guys late in practice and go like wire to wire with? But I know you've had good news lately, but guys, the fact that it seems like it's become more common in this era.
Like I said, now it takes twists and turns along the way, and you keep swinging. There's going to be guys that commit early. There's going to be guys that commit late. There's going to be back and forth along the way, and so you just keep pushing. And again, the ultimate goal is to have the best roster in America, in August. So, we're always going to be aggressive in recruiting and try to go after guys at a young age, and you just keep going from there. But we have competitive rooms, and so guys want to come in and compete, and so again, I think it's more and more of a challenge year in, year out, but it's going to be like that moving forward, and we'll continue to recruit guys, all the way to the end.
Singular or trend why you think maybe if the last minute some guys leave?
I don't know. Every situation is probably different. Yeah.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Brent, I think you said right now you're working at a number around 83 or 84.
Yep.
So when 14 guys go in the portal, it seems like that probably had to happen. How do you get to a number like that? How do you process it? Were there any, maybe 1 or 2 were a surprise to you? What's the situation when you get to that point? How do you get to it? How do you manage it?
Yeah, well, I think it was a little bit when you look at just the numbers of it all of COVID and just having an extra year in there, kind of got log jammed a little bit, and some guys that felt like as they looked at maybe some guys that could be coming back, or maybe their projection going into next year, they felt like they would have an opportunity to possibly get on the field sooner somewhere else, and so it's sort of become part of the process. And the thing about Ohio State is we recruit obviously at a high level, and so when guys maybe don't get on the field in year 2 or year 3, they're probably going to have opportunities at other places, and there's no hard feelings. It's just, hey, this is part of college football, and wish those guys nothing but the best of luck, and still help them with their transition of where they were going, and so but you could tell coming out of last year, based on how many guys come back now, that we were over.
In the summer, I think maybe at Big Ten Media Days, you said leave the calendar alone. There's been too many changes. Every time they've moved the signing day up, there's been unintended consequences. The way that this month is structured right now, with the portal, with NFL draft decisions, with recruiting, with coaching changes, with the bowl games, next year with the playoff, do you still think you just have to leave December like that? Or what, assuming you could get your way,
right?
What would you want?
Well, the challenge is that a lot of these guys are coming at mid-year now. So, you can't wait till January because classes start in January. So, and if you push it back any further, now you're getting into the season. So, it's not easy. It is chaotic. But as we sit right now, the way the calendar lays, I'm not sure, it could be done any other way other than maybe moving it up to the summer or to the spring.
That's another set of problems.
Exactly right.
I don't know if can you comment on Jeremiah Smith and Edward Houston?
I can't right now. I know we're kind of no.
Can you then, in more generic terms, describe what this day has been like for you? Because I can only imagine you literally buckled earlier. What has this day been like for you?
I mean, the first beer is going to taste good. I can tell you that right now. Yeah, well, whichever one's the coldest. No, it's this is signing day, and when you have really good players, it's going to come down to the wire, and that's how it goes. And it's the most competitive environment there is in in all sports when it comes down to signing day, when you're trying to get after some of the best players in the country. And so that's just how it goes. But excited that we're able to add some big pieces here.
How much true uncertainty was there this morning, or did it take you by surprise that there was talk of this guy maybe decommitting, and you did lose a wide receiver, but just, how do you kind of sum up the day?
Well, there's a lot of variables in place now that weren't in the past. So there's a little bit more unknown than previously. You're not always sure exactly, all the details of everything that's going on. It's just kind of the way things are now. So there is some uncertainty as you head into today.
Can you say who that phone call was with?
I don't think I can. Yeah. It was with a recruit.
Tim May show up.
Thank you, Jerry. Speaking of that, what you just touched on, is it unseemly what's going on now where, you're trying to show a guy how you're going to develop him, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, Coach, how much am I getting?
Yeah.
Aspect of it. How much has that become the major aspect of it, or at least for the top tier talent I know you won't name names, but because we're under the impression a lot of this had to do a lot with that, in some form or fashion.
I think it's become a bigger part of it every year, and the opportunity is become different, and so that's part of it that you have to figure. But you also have to figure your own team, your own roster, your own locker room as well. So there's a balance there, and I think we're all working towards adapting to that and making sure we find the right balance.
And I would think some of the guys that they've left this program in the last several weeks might have walked in and wanted a raise. I mean, for want of another term. I mean, that's fairly accurate, isn't it? Too. I mean, in some respects. I mean, how do you deal with that part of it?
Well, I think everybody, wants what's fair, and I think that's absolutely fair for them to think that way. And so it's our job to advocate for them, but at the same time, there's only so many spots on the roster, and you have to manage it the best you can.
And one other quickie before I ask the last one. Don, the only reason I asked because I didn't get a chance to ask you this. Donovan Jackson on y'all's last offensive play trips over your center. You know what I mean? And the guy comes in a little twist stunt and stuff. Is it still stunning to you that almost a whole season, in some respects, comes down to almost serendipity there in some respects?
I mean, I was just enjoying a couple things, and now we got to go back to this. No, it's. I
mean,
you're
Donovan,
right.
It has to live with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all do. Yeah, and that's playing at Ohio State. And we're 11-1, and it comes all the way down to like you said, the last few minutes of the game, and so yeah, you don't just wake up the next day and think everything's okay. It doesn't work that way. But at the same time, no one's going to feel sorry for you. You got to move on, and we got a great team and a great program and a great culture. But yeah, I mean that hurts, and we've said it before. You've heard me say it. It can come down to one play, and so here we are. But again, you don't just forget about that kind of stuff. But you got to move on, and we are.
But it speaks to what he's about too. I mean, just him. There are other guys too like this. He doesn't want that as his last play and stuff. I mean, he's playing in his cotton bowl and relishing it. Right? Have you seen some fire and vigor out of him?
Yeah, and he's not the only one. I think there's a lot of guys that have that feeling, like they don't want to leave without winning that game. That's for sure. I mean, that's been a huge part of the conversations. Yeah.
And last thing, when you make evaluations on a coaching staff, you were asked this earlier, but just generally, like Austin was asking about the calendar and stuff, there doesn't seem to be, a really good time until after January the 1st or the 5th or whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, does that make it, I don't know, uncomfortable for you in that respect of you're selling this program, et cetera, but you also want to maybe make some changes?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take into consideration the timing of everything. Yeah. And so we'll do that. But yeah, I mean, you go through the season and you work through the season, and then, you come up for air and figure out what you need to do to fix things, and how you need to make changes if appropriate.
Can I ask one more?
Sure, why not?
You came in here, some things were up in the air. You're leaving this press conference feeling how? Meaning about this signing class.
I mean, there was some pieces that we felt like we needed to get coming out of this. Did we get everything? Did we get the whole wish list? No, but we got a lot of things covered, and that's really good moving forward. So now on to the next phase of, putting this roster together. But a lot of hard work by a lot of people for this class, and I'm fired up about that part of it.
We're going to wrap up with Jeremy Birmingham podcast.
In this class, you have guys you can't talk about yet who have been committed for over a year and top-ranked player in the country, all the drama in the world around the recruitment, maybe not on, on their account, but it happens anyway. You have players like Miles Lockhart, who first time he camped here in June of 2022, knew he wanted to play Ohio State, never visited another school, but still waited a year to commit and then signed without an incident. You have players like the Armstrongtons, who you saw in high school almost 2 years ago when they were 6'5" and 230 pounds, defensive, end almost looking offensive lineman. Is there still a common thread that you can find in recruiting that keeps all these things that feel fundamentally different the same? I mean, everything's changing, but are there still things that are like go-to everlasting truths?
Yeah, I think relationships is the number one thing. I learned that early on in this process. There are more and more variables every year. There's more things that go on, but it comes down to relationships, and everybody's different. You look at the guys that we have from all kinds of different states, different backgrounds. But again, I go back to, they all want the bright lights. They want to be relevant. They want big. And when you come to Ohio State, that's what you have to think. And you got to want all of that. And I think that's the common thread that runs through these guys. Everybody's on a different timetable. Everybody goes through it a little bit differently. But ultimately, they all get here and end up, starting fresh.
You said you didn't get the entire wish list. There's still decisions that have to be made for the NFL. What's left on that wish list if you project ahead to February or the portal? I mean, where do you look at it and say, this may be a spot we need to shore up?
I think it depends on, some of the decisions that are made here in the next month. And, I'm optimistic because I think a lot of these guys, feel like, there's some unfinished business here, and there's a great opportunity to come back and have a great team on all three phases and both sides of the ball. So that with this class coming in, and then, maybe some additions here and there in the portal when appropriate. I think we have a chance to, and again, what's the goal? The best roster in America in August. So we're going to keep working towards that.
George, thank you very much.
Am I allowed to talk about that one? Yeah. Yeah. So make sure I'm good. Yeah. So we can talk about Edric. Yeah. I said the word. Edric Houston. Really, really excited about Edric. This is somebody, Larry worked hard on this one. Comes from an unbelievable program down in Buford. We feel like he's an impact player day one. And it's a long process to get the signing day here, but we identified him early as somebody who was a difference maker. And again, I give Larry a lot of credit for the relationships he built down there. Tim Walton's a guy from down in Georgia who did a great job in this process as well. And his family and his coaches have been huge in this process. So that was a big one for us for sure. Yes, that was him that I talked to. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for your patience, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks.